You're watching The Mic Check, on every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Oh, hello and welcome everyone to this week's Mic Check. Last few weeks, we've been doing some really fun stuff with character work and the like. Today is not going to be quite that same character-y, but still an aspect of voiceover that we do need to focus on occasionally, and that is corporate or boring narration. This one specifically is medical narration. So there's going to be some words in there that we got to watch for, and some other things we'll get into. But without any further ado, Ellis has decided to go first. So Ellis, whenever you're ready, take it away. And as soon as you're done, choose who goes next.
Okie dokie. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. Okay, I will pass that off to Kayla.
Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is filled with bone cement and forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay, you get to choose who goes next.
Okay, I'll choose Ethan.
Ethan, you're up.
All right. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. I'll pass it off to Aaron.
Okay, all right. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. But balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity of the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. I'll pass it to Jake.
Jake, you're up.
Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. Nathan.
Again. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. Yes. Goodness. Michael.
All right. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. All right. I know you just joined us, but Velva, would you be willing to read? No? Okay. Leonard, then, you're up next.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in a stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. And I think that's everyone.
That is everyone. Okay, so the funny thing is this is really like, we would consider this to be really dry and boring, but I'm sure in an actual like operating room scenario, this would be like super high tension and stressful to some people because you're literally like trying to fix their body. But let's go ahead and get into the discussion portion. So this would be a great time, if you haven't already, to maybe open up Word or Notepad or somewhere for you to go ahead and take some notes. or if you're fancy, some kind of something to write notes on. So let's go ahead and talk about it. What kind of script is this? Is this audio visual or audio only? And does that make a big difference to this particular script?
Meant to be informative. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's audio only because it doesn't seem to have any like visual need for it, I would say. I could definitely see why it would possibly need visual.
Okay.
I was going to say, I mean, I always say it could be either one, because certainly as it's explaining, you can have the animated balloon going inside the vertebral body and then expanding as they explain it. But it could certainly work as audio only. Being that it's meant to be informational, I have a feeling it's going to have a visual with it because it's going to show something about the procedure.
Yeah, one of those PowerPoint presentation kind of things, which means it's got to definitely be slower and more methodical.
Yep.
Right. I would 110% say this is audio visual. And the reason being is that it goes into very general descriptions of things. It's not super specific. Because they're going to have an illustration of what's going on screen. You're directing somebody's attention to what's happening in front of them. So it's going to show, like, those, and I'm sure you could probably visualize it in your head, those really sterilized medical computer animations where it shows like the human body and then it turns them sideways and then turns them mostly invisible. And all that's left is the spine. And it shows a crack and it shows the spine bending forward. And then on screen, kyphosis, like little bits at a time, you're going to have some visuals on screen supporting what it is that you're saying. So this normally, again, when it comes specifically to commercial work, if it was audio visual, you'd want to play more of a background role to the visuals on screen. That's not what we're doing here. We are walking the person through what's going on with them. Likely, a medical narration like this is going to be shown to the patient. Likely, this is going to be some kind of like surgery prep thing, or just some light learning for maybe a patient or an intern or something like that. Or not intern, what am I talking about? But a patient or maybe a trainee surgeon or something like that, just to get familiar with generally what's going on. So the thing is even though this may seem really sterilized and boring, we still have to tell a story because we need to have our listeners understand what's happening.
You have to make sure that it is engaging. That is the number one thing with a narration piece like this. And that's gonna speak to who you're talking to. I think you're right. I think it could be for like informative for a patient, but I also think it's more likely the second thing you said, a trainee surgeon. I would even say someone who hasn't used this before, and this company or the person who created this is trying to break ground by getting new people on board and saying, try this new thing. Because if you think about who you're talking to, looking at the way it's like, you're not talking to someone who's done lots of these, because explaining to them what kyphosis is, they're going to sit there and like, yeah, thanks, I know that. But at the same time, if you're talking to just a patient, it's almost not simplified enough for somebody who's lived with that.
Just as a little joke, you could also replace kyphosis with gaming. That does the same thing, cause you to hunch forward and gets in the way of normal life and daily activities.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, anyway, so you mentioned something really, really important. Yes, now that everybody has sort of paid attention. Oh, wait, maybe I was kind of slouching forward. So go ahead, stretch out your back a little bit. Quit just slouching, and let's go ahead and actually get into this. So there's a kind of mindset that you need to have when going into any kind of instructional narration. There's a specific character, or at least character trait, that you need to have when doing these narrations. And sorry for my hands. It just kind of, I guess I cast spells while I talk. And I'm wondering what you all might, or what all of your input is on that, because I've got an idea, but I'm wondering if you were going to create a character that was going to walk people through the surgery, if this was a character read for you, how would you describe the character who's doing this narration? What are some one-word descriptions, or some short descriptions on that?
Can I start by giving you something it shouldn't be?
Sure.
It shouldn't be stiff. That's one of the things that I heard from at least one or two people, that they tried to imagine this is what a TV doctor would sound like when talking their way through the. I can tell you, I've had lots of doctors for lots of different ailments, and most of them will look at an x-ray and be like, I don't know, man. I mean, I can see a little bit of it up here. Like, they're real people. So I think that's the one thing you have to avoid is being phony. If it sounds like you're trying to sound like a medical infomercial, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, you're immediately going to shut people off.
Yep. So it's got to be real.
So now that we have an idea of what it shouldn't be, let's go ahead and talk about things that it could be. So who is this character? Who's saying these things?
Well, you've got to be an expert, because otherwise, why would they listen to you? And you have to be somebody who finds this material fascinating.
Okay. Expert, fascinating. I've got my qualms with the expert part, but I like the idea of fascinating. The only reason why, sorry, go ahead.
I would say like a serious but also normal sounding tone, like a human sounding serious tone.
Okay. All right.
I was thinking something similar to, and this is going to sound kind of weird, where
just go for it.
almost a newscastery kind of thing, where it's an earnest tone, but it's not monotone.
Okay.
You want to be reassuring.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe it kind of has a sort of educational tone to it, or at least informative about, like, here's information on this procedure. At the very least.
See, one of the words that's coming up that's coming to mind for me is invested. Like the character who's narrating this has either personally gone through this or knows somebody who's personally gone through this and seen how it can really help out and change their life. Like maybe they have a grandparent who fell really badly and fractured their spine, got this balloon Kyphoplasty, and actually made a really, really good recovery and regained some function before. This is somebody who knows the outcome and knows that this outcome is always a good thing. So I would also say optimistic, again, personally invested or just invested, interested. This is definitely something that you need to find fascinating as the person delivering it.
I think the word compassionate should probably be in there somewhere.
That is a really good one. That is a very good one.
And I love that you said invested, because one thing I will say, as speaking as a teacher, with what Ethan said about educational, is a lot of people think that educational means professorial. And that is the antithesis of what, number one, what educational VO should sound like. But the best teachers are the ones that relate to their students, not that stand there with a pointer and point at things on a screen and talk at people instead of talking to them. So I think that's one where you have to be really, really defined about what you mean. And I think invested, and engaging and compassionate is what ties that all together.
Absolutely. This should be anything but sterile and clean and monotone and professorial. This should have a clear idea of where you're going. So, for instance, you sort of start off with the potential downsides of not fixing this kyphosis. Well, first of all, you also have to tell somebody what the heck even is kyphosis. Is that some Egyptian pharaoh that I've never heard of? Like they need to know what kyphosis is. So that's thankfully included here. But then balloon kyphoplasty, here's the answer. Like kyphosis can be bad. Kyphosis can cause you long-term debilitating physical effects. Balloon kyphoplasty is an actual solution to that. We can help you. We can make you better. We have the technology, for those of you who know that reference. But some other things that I want you to think about as well is think about a time where you were teaching somebody either something scholastic that you had personally really grasped. So something like maybe you're a major history buff, and there was like a part of maybe a battle from World War II that you were talking about that you knew quite a bit of because you just found it super fascinating. Or maybe one of your friends decided to ask you about a game that you've been playing and you want to give them all of the ins and outs. Like for instance, we'll take, I don't know if any of you have played Destiny 2 at all, but Destiny 2 requires quite a bit of help from veteran players for new players to get into it. So,
Yes,
think about a time where you have mentored somebody into something, where you have explained it to them, even if it's voiceover. Think about how that feeling that you had trying to get somebody to think, okay, that's really cool. Or when you saw that light go off in their eyes, like for me, I love teaching people. I love teaching my friends board games. I've got a massive collection of them, and I love teaching my friends board games. And whenever we get through our first several turns and it starts to click, that's kind of the mindset that I try to look at, or that I try to analyze when I go into a script like this, because that's when I feel like I'm most in control of how I'm explaining things. So think about a time for yourself when that happened. Maybe it was a specific event. Maybe it's just a specific subject, and write that down somewhere. Note that down. Give yourself like a mental trigger of that time when when somebody was really jiving with what you were saying when it comes to an explanation. That should be the mindset you should try focusing in on if you're more of a draw from your own personal experience kind of person. But there is one very important thing that you need to note when it comes to reading the script. Control your speed. We cannot be going too fast through this. It is a whirlwind of information, and it needs to be walked through step by step. Now, it might feel a little bit weird, especially to those of us who speak a bit quicker, but it's definitely important to measure your pace and make sure that you are speaking clearly. So I actually think that mostly covers it. Does anybody have any lingering questions or comments or anything like that they'd like to focus in on when it comes to the script? I'm going to go ahead and open it up. So if there's something I didn't talk about or I need to explain more, please, this is the time.
For those that struggled with it, vertebral body.
I had one thing that kind of just came to mind when I read the script. There are certain parts, and I would have to go to the script right now, but like the part where it says resulting in a stooped posture or a hunched back. We were talking about the visual with the kind of like 3D model type thing. I feel like you would add like the smallest pause there to where it would be like maybe like the visual would be shifting to like the different thing. So I was thinking maybe there would be a small pause there, but maybe that's just me.
No, that's a really good point. You definitely want to make some room for the visuals.
I think you also, I'm pretty sure I messed this up. You have to be careful not to add in the article a, because the script is resulting in stooped posture. And I'm pretty sure I said resulting in a stooped posture or a hunched back. And they've got one, but not both. Yes, Ellis, I do teach English. What gave it away? The fact that
Called
I'm
them out.
overpronouncing a word?
Little, yeah.
And using the
this-
term
it-
article. Yeah.
just gave off that vibe.
Well, I mean,
20 years will do it.
all right. Well, with that little last note about giving the visuals some space, how about we go ahead and get back into it, shall we? All right, Ellis, take it away.
Okie dokie. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay, opening it up. What did everybody think of that read? Well, you're putting Jake to sleep, so I don't know what that means.
No, it means I'm not going first.
I'd like to hear it be a little more reassuring. And my direction for your next read would be imagine that you're reassuring your grandma who's really worried about undergoing this procedure, and you're telling her, like, hey, this is okay, it'll be good. Yeah, it sounded kind of like impersonal and verging on bored.
Yeah, I kind of got that feeling a little bit too. There was something there that I couldn't put it into words of what I was thinking, and you kind of put it in that word perfectly.
Think about, and Leonard's right, think about who you're talking to, right? But also think about who you are in this situation. You're the guy that's got this cool new thing that's going to fix the problem. Be excited about that.
All right, so make it more personal then. Would that be the general idea? Okay, so make it a little bit more personal and go ahead and give us another read.
Okie dokie. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity.
I'm not hearing you talk to your grandma.
I'm hearing you talk to a monitor as you're reading. It sounds very red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
If grandma doesn't do it, tell one of us, like specify which one you're talking to and tell us about this thing that you're going to do to make our lives better.
all right. Because I was trying something where I was going to be like, I know it's scary, but like, here's the benefits. But that clearly is not working. I will try that again. Okay.
That was a Dan rule violation. So it's okay to have a good idea of what you're going for, but we've got your direction covered, not you. You've got to have your performance covered. So focus in on that. Go for it.
Okay. So from the top?
From the
Okay,
top.
all right. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. How was that?
Total 180.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Total 180.
Sounded way more live.
So much more believable, too.
Yay, validation.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good.
Okay. So now I'm curious, while you were reading, what was going through your head? What helped you make that change?
This isn't the most professional answer, but I don't like people being disappointed in me.
Hey, you know what? That's fine. Everybody's got a reason why they do what they do. But the thing is it's really going to help you if you have if you try to look just beyond that. Like see, the thing is I'd love for you to be able to actually like take that read and put it in your back pocket and have it to be able to reference. You know, it's like, oh, I did this before. This is how I got into that mindset. And now I can use it in this situation. Because what happened is the read went from this boring, dry, dull, you know, I'm going down a list of words to something that was a little bit more personally connected. So there was a shift there. Something in your mind shifted there, and the only reason I asked that, the only reason I asked that question is just so that hopefully you can find something that you could pull out again in the future, because that was a really fantastic change.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. So everybody happy with that read, or one more time? Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think we can go ahead and move on. Good job. All right, Kayla, you're up.
Sorry, I was having troubles unmuting. I'm so amazing. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in a stooped posture or hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fractures treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. So, you sound nervous. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I knew I was messing up there. It was making me more nervous as I kept messing it up.
So if that ever happens, I'd like for you all to try this just in your own reads occasionally. If that ever happens, understand first off that, that's expected. That's why we have editing software, and that's why we go through editing. So what you want to do is you want to give your editor, or yourself if you're the editor, only as much good as possible to work with. So instead of continuing through it, you messed up, that's cool. Everybody heard it, whatever. We expect that. Say pickup. That should be like a mental cue in your mind. Whenever you say pickup, that's a mental cue that, okay, that was trashed. Let's go ahead, back it up to maybe the beginning of the last sentence that I started at, and just take it from there. Just keep going. You don't want to keep pushing through a read, because then what happened to you is going to keep happening. You're going to have one stumble, and then you're going to feel uncomfortable, and then you're going to keep stumbling because you felt uncomfortable, and it's just going to make it worse and worse.
It's like quicksand.
Yeah. So the next time that a mess up does happen, there's no need to apologize. There's no need to, try to stumble through it. We get it. We've all gone through it in our various levels of voiceover. I cannot tell you how many times I've extended a session easily by 30 or 40 whole minutes because of mess ups. And actually, fun story. When I first started doing work for Mazda, I was doing their product walk around back in 2016, 2017, something like that. And in 2 different sessions, I gave them 2 completely different reads. So I had to redo one of those sessions entirely. That was at like 3 hours worth of work that needed to get redone. So mess ups happen. Don't even worry about it. But yeah, just I don't want to give you a whole lot right now, other than give yourself a little bit of extra space in between sentences. You're not giving yourself much space in between sentences. You're running right into the next one. Whenever you see a period, end the thought, stop it right there, then pick up.
I will also say you're in 5th gear, downshift to 2nd.
Yes.
Slow down. Because
Way
instead
down.
of, yeah, I mean, almost unnaturally so, because instead of concerned, you're coming across as concerned to get to the end and be done with this. And I know that's not what you're going for.
Yeah, you have to give people time to digest what you're saying. I mean, it's this complicated medical stuff, and it's going to radically impact their lives. They need to get what's going on. So yeah, give them space to digest what they're hearing.
Okay. So
and the slower you go, the less you'll mess up too.
Yeah. So if you mess up, just start from the sentence you started with and keep going from there, and give yourself more space in between sentences. Go ahead and give us another read.
Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward.
Slow down.
Okay.
Much slower.
Can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in a stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
After Leonard said something, you slowed down for a little bit, and by the time you got back to balloon kyphoplasty, you were at warp speed again. When we say slow down, when I said unnaturally so, I mean it. Like it should feel like you are having to spell things out very, very meticulously as you are speaking to someone, because you got to remember, as you said, if there are visuals along with this, somebody is trying to follow along with the visual while they're hearing your voice. And if you're going as fast as you were going, it's going to sound really natural, but it's also going to go by so fast that there's no way they're going to understand what's going on because they're still stuck on the picture.
Yeah,
So
that completely makes sense.
Slow it way down.
Yeah, I've been told I'm a fast. I'm a fast talker, so.
I was also wondering a little bit about the tone. It didn't come across terribly engaged to me, like you were connecting with the person you're talking to.
Yeah, I'm trying to fix that. I would listen back, didn't listen back, but I was thinking after that, yeah, I didn't sound as more connected as I did the first time I read. So I'm trying to refix back to where I was with that.
So something that's really going to help you with that is paying attention to the punctuation. Commas and periods are natural places to slow down a little bit and to allow yourself to not only catch your breath, but also form or end ideas. So, for instance, let's just go with that first sentence. There are two different commas in it. That means that ideally, if this isn't poorly written, each one of those comments is a sort of mildly connected idea to the next one. So, and of course, Jake, please correct me if I'm wrong about if I'm wrong about this. But what that means is that just in that first sentence, there are three sort of mildly connected ideas that are all put together. If left untreated, that is a qualifier. So that means that the rest of it, the rest of what you're going to say is based off of that first part. If left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. Do you see what I mean? When left untreated, qualifier, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, effect, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. Permanent consequences. So I don't know if us sitting here and trying to guide you through everything is really going to be super effective in that, because a lot of that comes from just reading these longer form narrations over and over again. I don't know how much reading you do in your own personal life, if you enjoy books or anything like that, but if you haven't yet, maybe you should look around for one or two of them you enjoy, or some kind of story that you enjoy reading, because the more you read and the more you actually get your mind wrapped around the multi-layer sentences and stuff like that, splitting those ideas apart becomes easier and easier.
Yeah. I would suggest using a lead-in on this. So go something like, Grandma, this is really important. When left untreated, yada, da, da, da.
Yeah, Grandma, you broke your back. Come on, we got to fix it up. If it's left untreated,
But yeah, the right lead-in can really establish the tone for you, and that might help a lot.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Then why don't you go ahead and just give the first half of it another go for us? So give us another take.
Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fractures treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity.
Okay.
And still slower, and still more space between sentences. Take a full deep breath. I mean, like a giant inhaled all the way. If for no other reason, not even because you need it to get through the next sentence, but because you need that amount of time to reset your mindset for the next sentence. Because even given it space or trying to right now, that came across as resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, like you're running them right into each other.
Okay.
All right. One last read. Go for it.
I keep pressing wrong buttons. Sorry about that. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in a stooped posture or hunched back. This is the forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, making it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity.
Pacing seemed a little better that time.
Yeah.
I think you're starting to get there.
Definitely the best read so far.
It wasn't quite as slow, but it was getting really, really close.
You made it down to third gear. We still want you in second, but noticeably better.
Yay!
And I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, Jesus, I was crawling through that. Yeah, still want you even slower. It's going to feel weird until you get to that point. But the difference is when you slow it down enough, the pace stops being an issue and we can hear and then focus more on your performance, on the actual acting choices you're making.
Yeah. Okay.
So am I hearing a request for one last read? Because
I'm good either way.
I think we've got some time, but all right. Again, first sentence or first half, last time for realsies.
Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity.
Yeah,
you
that
had
was your
me
best
until
read.
that last sentence. You were on it until that last sentence. You were working your way out of the mindset, but those first two sentences were solid.
Yeah,
and cleaner reads.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, that more controlled tone really helped out everything. You were a lot more on point, a lot more on message. That was where we wanted you to go. Again, though, I might suggest just looking for long things to read and read them. Just unfortunately, there's no easier way around it.
Yep. That makes sense. I mean, I have to look for something to read out loud. That's something easy that doesn't have very, very big words.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to suggest something, but the one I was going to suggest is definitely it's a challenge. But we'll leave that for a future time. Anyway, moving right along. Ethan, you're up.
Okay. Oh, I'm feeling the pressure. Let's see how this goes. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to think about some choices here. How to approach
Again,
this.
don't apologize. There's no reason to apologize for your read.
Okay, let's see how this goes. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay, opening it up. What did everybody think?
Ethan, where are you from?
Chicago.
Okay. What part of Chicago?
Like north of the city.
North of the city?
Yeah.
Still in the city or in a suburb?
Like in a suburb.
Okay. Tell me a little about the suburb.
Pretty quiet out here, I would say.
What's your favorite memory from when you were a kid there?
That's a hard one.
Well, I would say worst memory, but I mean, again, this is going to go on YouTube. So give me a good one. Give me a good feel from the young days of Ethan.
And just you can go ahead and keep it general.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that people don't locate you.
If you blew somebody's car up, we don't need to know the license plate or anything.
Oh, no, yeah. I would say if you go down to Chicago around Christmas time, there's a really cool place called the Walnut Room. It's like a real, I don't know, just like a real fancy, like Christmassy place, like around that time, of course, because they do it up all pretty. It's very nice. Yeah, So,
for everybody listening, did you hear the difference in Ethan telling us a
Yes.
story
Yes.
and Ethan reading as the doctor explaining?
Yeah.
I mean, your read was incredibly phony. Whereas you telling me that story about Christmas time, I 100% believed it and I was invested. I want to know more about this Christmas party. I didn't want to hear anything else about your balloon, whatever, because I was done.
okay. So just like,
Be yourself. Be
All
yourself. Doctors don't sound like Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island. They don't talk that way.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for that.
Give us another read.
Okay. I think I just need to get out of my own head.
Are you wearing headphones right now?
Let me see if I got some. Oh,
No, if you're not, that's fine. That's fine. I actually wanted, if you were wearing headphones, I would tell you to take them off.
oh, okay. All right. Okay, let's do this. Whew. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. Thank you, Tornado Siren. That's really what we need right now. There's not an actual tornado, it's just a test.
That's fine. If you
I
get blown
was gonna
away,
say that-
we'll
Boy, that took a
wanted
turn.
I almost wanted to say, Mr. Spock, you read it very well. However, you sounded very Leonard Nimoy. It was
Yeah,
kind
you
of
need
still
to-
very mechanical.
You were coming off down at the end of every sentence, and it was very, very authoritative without being connected or invested. But it was better than the first read.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a lot more real than the first one.
Yeah. The main thing for the next read would be to vary up your melody. It was all like, left untreated spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward. All the way through. I'm exaggerating, of course, but you get the idea.
So, Ethan, what kind of voiceover do you want to get into? Like, what do you want to specialize in?
That is a great question. As a complete newbie, but
or what would you like to be the bulk of what you do?
I feel like this is gonna be such a token answer, but probably. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. We understand. Just it's fine.
Probably like video games, original animation, a lot of the character stuff.
Okay, cool. Character work. Character work.
Right?
Totally fine. That's totally fine. So if that's the case, let's give this a more down-to-earth character. So you are the grandson of somebody whose life was totally changed because they got this balloon kyphoplasty. Like this character really is personally invested with their grandparents. They really love them. And now they're speaking with somebody, or they're giving a presentation about their experience with that. They are still, you're still a professional. You're still talking to a group of people, but your beloved grandparent was completely transformed. Like their life went from, absolute misery, torture, and hell to, 100% back to normal because of balloon kyphoplasty. That's your character. So your character is familiar with how this works and what happens to somebody when they don't get it treated. So go ahead and focus on that character and give us a read.
Let me add one thing to that. That character has to have an audience, someone they're talking to. let's say that your character, who really believes in this because they've seen how amazing it can be for their grandparents, your character is talking to someone who's like, yeah, whatever, and he's checking his phone. Complete cynic, not interested. You've got to convince this person that this stuff really works.
Okay, sounds good. I will give that a try. Well,
That's your character. So focus on that character. Take it from the top.
Okay. Oh, thanks. That siren's going to be annoying, I'm sure. So let's see how this goes, right? Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stoop posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Yeah, you sounded kind of angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, your convincing format went louder, and how dare you not listen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost, I sort of got like a detective vibe, like here, like I figured it out. Don't you dare lie to me. This is what's going on.
What?
It was definitely a little assertive and a little tiny bit aggressive, but it kind of felt like a threatening way, and maybe that works in some way, but you know.
Ethan, you mentioned video games and animation, character work in general, but you started with video games, so let's start there. What would you say is the best video game you've dumped way too many hours into?
Elder Scrolls V Skyrim?
Yes. I have wasted so much of my life replaying
I'm playing it right now.
Even worse, let's be honest, Nathan, you know this is true. Replaying it the same way. Like you don't even change anything up every time. It's a freaking dungeon crawl. It's an awesome game. I love Skyrim. Here's the thing. You want to tell this person about Skyrim because they've never played it. So instead of like, how dare you not have played Skyrim? It's more like, dude, really? Oh my God, this is such an awesome, you've got to play this.
Okay. That's a good image. All right. Okay. I think I can see that better.
Yeah, give us the first two sentences and we'll see how that goes and adjust from there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. So, first sentences. Okay. All right. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. How was that?
You lost the anger, so good job on that. I would slow it down.
Okay.
Still sounding very authoritative. I want you to be a geek.
Be caring.
This has changed someone you care about's life. Oh my God. How cool is that? Like, this is the coolest thing ever. And if you need it, let me tell you how awesome it's going to be when it works. Get excited about it. Okay, as Michael said, really invested.
It's like more excited, less assertive about it.
Right. You don't have, authorities suck. Being authoritative when you know something and nobody else does sucks. Nobody wants to listen to you because you're talking down to them. You're talking at them. Talk to them. Talk to this person and be like, you haven't played Skyrim? Oh my God, dude, you got to play this game.
Okay. I think I'm getting a better idea. Thank you all for bearing with me for this, and also thank you for the feedback. I do appreciate it. I'm hoping I got this. let's see what happens. Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Is that closer? Hope so. Who knows?
Definitely much better.
Yeah,
Okay, that's reassuring.
definitely
Cool.
better.
Cool. Progress. I'll take it.
Want to give it a full read through with that?
Oh, sure. Should I do it just from the top
Yes.
again?
Does anyone else have any other directions you want to throw, or shall we just go with it?
No, let's go with that. Let's just go ahead and string it all together from the top. Go forth.
Okay. All right. Let's see if I can keep the rhythm. Hope so. All right. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Yeah.
Okay. What a
Oh my
read.
God, that was so much, dude.
It sounded
we
really good.
we found a real person.
We
totally
sounded
found a
very
real
alive,
person.
very, very upbeat.
That was awesome.
I can't believe I'm a real person. This is so I thought I was just a black
He's a real
screen.
boy.
got there before I did.
Congratulations,
Oh,
you
man.
exist.
Yeah. You know, sometimes, and Nathan could probably tell you this because he's had an interesting journey with this. Sometimes the most difficult character for you to pull off is you.
Yes, yes. I'm a character actor, and I love being in character, and doing different characters is my chocolate. But just sounding like myself has been the most intimidating thing in a voiceover for me. And I started with doing promo work. Which, I mean, my first radio voiceover job was doing characters, and not to mention I got thrown headfirst into writing. So, you know, which was a good thing because I write for my own show.
All right.
I guess it's just like weird to like, I don't know. I feel like I really need to remind myself more like use your actual voice.
Yeah.
It wasn't even so much about your voice, though. It really wasn't so much the voice. It was the believability of the character. It's perfectly fine to have a character who sounds stiff and stilted if that's what the actual role calls for. But it just wasn't coming across as believable. And acting is pretending well enough that someone, I mean, you're a Chicago guy. There's a really well-known anime and animation video game actor named Crispin Freeman that's got a podcast in which he says over and over and over again, acting is just playing pretend well enough that someone will pay you to keep doing it. And if they don't believe you as the character, they're not going to pay you for it.
Mm-hmm.
That last read, you were believable. You sounded real. Not necessarily that you are real, just your character in that read sounded like a real person.
That's great to hear. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate
It's
it.
more grounded. Well, let's go ahead and move on. Aaron, you're up.
Okay. Right. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. I definitely felt that was a bit quick. What else? I'm going to open it up.
It did. It did
What did y'all
sound. The
think?
pacing was a bit fast. It was. It almost sounded like it was trying to be read for like a very short 45-second PSA or commercial.
You got the caring part down. I like that. Good job on that. It could stand to slow down a little. The other note that I have on it is you were really hyper elocuting, and it was sounding kind of artificial because you were enunciating so over clearly, and it doesn't sound natural when you go overboard with it.
I think some of that slowing your pacing down will help, because I agree with Leonard. The speed combined with the high degree of enunciation, and I understand. I mean, in something like this, you sit there and you think, God, I've got so many words that I'm not used to using. I got to make sure I hit them all. But it's still okay to what we call to muddy the read, to make it a little more real. It sounded a little too clinical. The caring piece was there, but it sounded like someone who had read for an AI, and the AI was taking that voice and using it for this piece. So slow it down just a little bit, and I think that pace change will probably address the enunciation by itself.
Okay. When left untreated. Oh.
Yeah. Just going to summarize. Slow and easy. Like, allow yourself to muddy a few things up. You don't need to be perfect in everything, just in the right places. So from the top, go for it.
Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunchback. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. What about that one? What did everybody think of that? Jake, what did you think of that?
I saw Leonard unmute, and I was going to see if he would say it. I still want it slower.
He usually does.
Mm-hmm.
I still want it slower. I think that, kind of like we were saying to Kayla, you need to move at an unnaturally slow pace, because I have utmost confidence if you ever go too slow, we will have no problem getting you to speed back up. But right now, we got to put the brakes on and slow it down, because you're losing some of the caring piece, because it sounds like you're just trying to get through it and rush this person into a decision so that you can get them in the OR and get paid.
Yeah. You can really change some T's into D's. It's okay. So don't say deformity, it's deformity. And overall, I just say, relax.
Are you nervous, Aaron? Like, have you read in front of people before?
I don't read in front of people.
You don't? Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. I totally understand. So See, there's nothing that I could really say to help you handle stage fright. The only thing that I could really do is try to assure you that we've all done this. We've all been in this exact same position before, and it's okay to be nervous, but understand that we're all in the exact same position too. Don't worry, we're all going to have to read up in front of everybody as well anyway. So
We're all rooting for you.
Yes.
We're trying to get the best possible performance out of you to help you.
yeah,
It's
all
we're
about
not
trying to build
looking
up
to
your
bash you
read.
for doing things wrong.
Yeah, you got this.
Aaron, what I was going to say is, or I guess what I was going to ask is, are you like, I don't know if you saw me when I was doing it. Are you like me? Do you tend to talk with your hands?
Yes.
Try putting I know this is going to be weird. Try putting your hands in your pockets and shrug. Just kind of shrug your way through it. And see if that physical aspect of relaxing helps at all.
Go for it from the top.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stoop posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformities. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
That was a much better read.
Yeah.
A very, very,
Very good.
relaxed and easy to follow read. Very good job.
How did that feel for you, Aaron?
I still felt nervous, but it was much more relaxing than the previous.
It definitely came across in your voice and in your read that it felt more relaxed to you. The nerves thing, I completely understand. And like Michael said, we all get it. We all do. We're all performers, which means we've all been on stage somewhere, whether it's on camera or not, and looking out going, oh God. So not an issue, nothing to worry about. I mean, again, I'm a teacher. I get that experience twice a year, first day of each semester every year. So not a problem there, but that was a significantly better and more relaxed read.
Mm-hmm. No, the way you managed, I mean, I understand that you were feeling nervous, but you managed it really well. And I'm going to quote him. I know I keep mentioning him because I've constantly mentioned him since he joined us, but Chuck Huber, his main thing, like his very first thing that he came on and taught us, and he's a longstanding anime and video game voice actor as well as a coach. He mentioned that the number one most stressful thing that a human being could ever possibly do is piloting a jet airplane. That is the number one most stressful possible thing that you can do to a human body. The second most stressful thing you can do to a human body is have somebody speak in front of a group of people, which is what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. So he and again, he says that even he constantly feels this. When he first joined us, I actually asked him to go ahead and read for us with the script that we had, and he was telling us exactly how nervous he was getting. So that never really goes away. You just find ways of managing it, and that's totally okay. And you did that here. You managed it very, very well and came up with a very natural read. So congratulations. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Jake, you're up. We're talking about Skyrim. I went with the whole archery thing. I don't know.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay, let's open it up. What did everybody think of that one? Well, Jake, it looks like you stunned us.
I don't know. He sounded just a little bit fast. And probably nitpicking, but he did sound like he was kind of paced up a little bit, trying to get all the way through it as fast as possible.
Yeah. I thought the pace was okay, but I had some issues there with the melody. And my suggestion would be read it like you're talking to a 14-year-old daughter who has the vocabulary to handle it, but is looking at going through this procedure and is worried about it.
Go ahead and give us another read.
Okay, sounds good. See if I can back it off just a little bit for you, Nathan. Honey, it's going to be okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the structure. Forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
I'm happy.
Yeah, much better.
Good job.
Say about it. So there you go. Congratulations.
Anybody else? Okay. Sounds good.
All right, moving right along. Nathan, you're up.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
I think you really, in making your comment, you really derailed yourself right after that first mess up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because your read was extremely different after making that comment.
Accidentally broke the Dan rule.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
You did break the Dan rule. Shame.
You were very compassionate and caring in your first two sentences. You were a little more matter of fact in your third. And then Michael's right, man. By the time you got to that second paragraph and you had to reset yourself and like Kyphoplasty, like you had to make sure you said it right and you needed everybody else to know you said it right when you said it, and everything else was just off a cliff.
It threw me into analytical mode.
Yep.
And the kicker is you were on point with your character at first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a solid read up until that point, but pointing out that flaw completely removed you from your performance.
This is why we should never break the Dan rule.
Yes.
Get out of your head.
Yeah.
Get out of your head there, kid. Stay in the
Dan rule
performance.
causes you to go analytical. So
Right.
Yeah.
So
My question after the second half was, who are you talking to?
a person I care very much about.
Okay.
I want to make sure that their health is going to be good.
Well, then let's hear it.
Okay.
From the top. Go for it.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. How was that?
Slow it down, Hot Rod. You sped up
the
in
pace. I thought the pace was otherwise okay, but you need to honor the commas. You just blew by several of them. Like when left untreated spinal fractures, there's a comma there.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing you picked up the pace. Your previous reads or your previous read started off slower. This one, I don't know, man, but it was about a half tick too fast.
Okay.
I also feel like that last sentence, I know it's a long one and it's a mouthful, but whereas Leonard's right, you weren't honoring the commas in the first paragraph, that last sentence, you added like 3. So it came across as a disjointed thought. I think if you just slow down as a whole, even those pauses are going to seem more purposeful.
Okay. Hey, when left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
I can hear those phantom commas in the last half. Yeah, you're still adding in, and you're breaking things apart in strange places. At least I noticed it once, should I say, in that last half.
I still noticed it, but it sounded a lot more natural that time than it did previously because you did slow down.
Thank you for that tiny little bit of direction there. I was watching you out of the corner of my eye while I was reading.
You dove in at first. I heard you, just like Leonard said, man. You blew through that first comment. It's like, whoa, chill.
Thank you for the adjustment. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And Vincent has arrived. Let's give him the script here. Oh. What in the world happened to my paste? I lost the paste. I think somebody ate it. There we go.
So let's see. When you weren't thinking too heavily about the specifics, your read was really, really smooth. For instance, in that very first paragraph of this most recent read, it was a lot smoother. It was a lot more natural. But again, there are those strange like breaks that you put into the second half, and I'm not sure if that's because of the way that you have your script laid out. You're not reaching the end of sentences normally, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I would just say be fairly careful about that.
Yeah, I had to make a little font adjustment because it was looking a little bit too small on my screen in front of me. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah,
that should help quite a bit.
I would also suggest maybe just knowing that it is such a mouthful and you're going to cut the breath out anyway, go ahead and stop when you get to its correct position and just gulp down a giant mouthful of air and then run into that last sentence and see if you can get through at least to the first comma without having the unnatural pauses.
Okay, I'm going to read the second paragraph just due to the time because it's 8:36 and we got a couple other people to read. So
go for it.
Okay. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
You know where the one pause that's still not working is, Michael? Creates a cavity in the vertebral body. That's some straight up Shatner read right there. That's got to be one concept altogether. Inflation of the balloon creates if you're going to pause, take the pause after balloon, so that it creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement.
Yeah, I see where I need to take my beat. I just saw it in the way the sentence structure is. Thank you so much. I'm going to read one more time and then I'll let somebody else have it. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. What about that one? Pretty good. I thought it was pretty solid.
You fixed that weird pause.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Another thing that fixed my tripping point was I adjusted my font just a shade. It was a scotch too small, and it's like, okay. But then when, we were going over that, I saw my breath point and I had completely misplaced it. So I definitely, when William Shatner all over it. So.
And I just want to say, Michael, you talk about me outing myself and my age. This man's over here using scotch and you're not going to say a thing about it? Come on now.
I've heard Michael use it.
I'll let it pass for now. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to say something, but decided not to.
I'm an old young person. Hey, come on. Now, look, I can sound like a 10-year-old if I want to. Mom told me I can.
So I'm up next. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or connect spinal deformity. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture. I leave it to you. What's my feedback?
Every sentence ended on a down, every single one. And so it sounded like you had the caring piece there. Some of that's just naturally in your voice, but you had the caring piece there, but it still sounded much more authoritative, and that made it come across as dismissive.
Oh, okay.
So you didn't sound as invested as I think you were aiming for.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I think Jake covered it.
Okay.
If anything, my direction would be the same one I gave to Jake, like read it to your 14-year-old daughter who's about to go through the procedure.
Okay, let me try to get myself more invested into this one. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
I don't know about anybody else. I heard what sounded like you had like a mental stumble and then caught yourself on that to return it to its correct position. But as far as the performance, man, that was spot on.
Michael was born for this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean that was
Do it. You're
out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Okay. I don't recall having a mental stumble, but that kind of concerns me that something like that came out.
It may not have been. I mean, if anything, I would just it sounded like you got, because this is what happens to me. Maybe that's why it sounded that way to me. It sounded like your eyes got too far ahead and then you had to back up and catch where you were going next. But again, it was one phrase, and I think you can Franken take that in because, like I said, the performance was spot on. Aces.
Yeah, I didn't hear it. It may have been there, but I didn't hear it.
Okay.
It might
We'll
just
listen
be
back to
my
it
own
a few
insecurities.
Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. So, Leonard, you're up next.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
I actually don't know if I want to open it up to feedback. I would say just since you got through that once, go through it again. Like just this time, just try to smooth it all out.
Okay.
Go for it. Just right from the top, just try to smooth it all out.
Okay. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. Now I'm going to open it up. Let's go ahead and give him some feedback on that performance. What did you all think?
I think in both the first and the second one, you need to listen to your own direction.
Okay.
You were just like what Michael was doing. You were coming down on the end of every sentence. You have grandkids, is that right? Do I remember hearing that? Yeah. One of them has to have this, and they're scared. They're like, Grandpa or Papa, whatever. I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to do this. Put their mind at ease.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, that sounds about right to me. So go ahead,
Okay.
give us one more read.
Jake, you gotta leave some feedback for the rest of us. Come on.
Did you have something you want to say?
Just jump in anytime you
Yeah, please do.
Jump in. Ellis, man, please jump in, because I feel like all the time I'm like waiting and nobody says anything. And so Michael invariably says, Jake, what do you think?
We like your feedback, Jake.
Yeah, dude.
That's it. We
Throw
like
it in the ring, man.
Because I feel like I'm usually on a similar wavelength, not the same wavelength, but something similar. But yeah, it felt to me like not that you were trying to get it over with, but almost that you were. It felt to me like you were presenting it, but you weren't really invested in it.
Okay.
So next time, Ellis, say that.
Yeah.
Say it
just
fast. Do it.
jump in.
Just jump in before I get a chance to, man. I'll keep my mouth shut and wait.
Okay,
so
let's try again.
just to avoid that though, real quick, does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? It's totally fine, completely open. Going once, going twice. Okay, go for it.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause a spine to shorten and angles forward. When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stooped posture or a hunched back. This forward curvature of the spine, called kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformity. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay, anybody but Jake, what did you all think?
To me, it feels a little more personal, but how do I want to say this? It felt almost like, hold on, like I had it in my brain, then it like
No worries. No worries.
sort of evaporated. It's just too hot today.
If it comes back, if it comes back, feel free to go ahead and jump on back in. I felt that was a lot more connected than your last read. It definitely was more connected. Although I feel like that mess up probably messed you up more than you gave it credit for. Like you were a lot more thrown off by that mess up in the second paragraph than you really reacted to it. So I would have just, my direction to you, where I, the actual director in this one, would be to stop you and have you reread that section or that second paragraph from the top. That'd be my main thing.
Okay.
Came back.
Jake?
Come back at all, Ellis?
Ellis,
Yeah, it
did it
came
come back?
I would like to see it maybe a little softer, just a little more comforting,
Okay.
almost as if, like in that sort of middle range between like, not between talking normally and a whisper, where it's like, "Hey, are you feeling okay?" What's like that sort of area.
Okay.
I would agree. And I feel like you started there and then you messed up twice in that first sentence. And when you backed up and started again, you were right back to the more authoritative read.
Okay.
And I feel like you caught yourself. You must have heard it, because the rest of the way through you softened it from there, but you had backed it up to such an authoritative place that even softening it didn't soften it enough. So if you stumble like that, go all the way back to resetting and figuring out who you're talking to.
Okay. Just the second paragraph?
Just the second paragraph. Go for it.
Okay. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inflated inside the fractured bone in an attempt to return it to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Unmute. There it is. I liked it. What do you all think?
I liked it better. I think the very first sentence with a low complication rate, when you drop that first one down, instead, like that first sentence is where you set the tone of, hey, it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Okay.
And I think if you're like Ellis was saying, if you're going to soften it, that first sentence is where you set that tone. And I think that will soften the rest of it. I would even just say, give me a little bit more reassuring and calming read of just that first sentence of the second paragraph.
Okay. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate.
Better. I still hear you going down at the end, but that was, for me, that was better.
Okay. You'd like me to go like with a low complication rate?
I think that would work a little bit better, but either way, it was that read that you just gave us was softer than the other. So solid in my book.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was absolutely fantastic. I think you nailed it.
Thank you, everyone.
And we are really getting close on time. So, Vincent, would you like to give it a read?
Okay.
When left untreated, spinal fractures can cause the spine to shorten and angle forward, resulting in stoop posture or hunchback. This forward curvature of the spine, called Kyphosis, makes it difficult to walk or conduct normal activities of living. Most spinal fracture treatments merely manage pain and don't repair the bone or correct spinal deformities. Balloon kyphoplasty is a minimally invasive procedure with a low complication rate. During the procedure, orthopedic balloons are inserted and then inserted inside a fractured bone in an attempt to return to its correct position. Inflation of the balloon creates a cavity in the vertebral body that is then filled with bone cement, forming an internal cast to support the surrounding bone and stabilize the fracture.
Okay. So, again, I would always encourage you to join us as early as you possibly can. That way you could be there for the full discussion and everything like that. But I think for the most part, that was a fairly solid read. Again, as you've been reading with us and as you've been practicing, hopefully on your own time as well, your reads have been improving more and more and more. You still have a little bit of that over pronunciation on certain things there, but that's starting to become less and less of an issue. You're starting to put together everything a lot easier and a lot better. So clearly the practice that you're doing is really paying off. Let me go ahead and open it up. What did everybody else think?
I agree. His practice has definitely been paying off. He sounded very confident and comfortable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I liked it. It felt to me like the things that were there were just something from not being as familiar as the script, from getting here a little late. But all in all, I thought it was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was doing workout and playing tennis at the gym.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you want to join us, it's going to become more difficult. I mean, thankfully, the script was a little bit shorter, so we did have some time to have you read today. But like you've seen with some of the longer ones, if you come this late, we can't always guarantee that you're going to be able to read. So, I mean, if you really can't join us one week, that's totally fine. But I would just say this is definitely a good one to practice because of the sort of stranger words that are in it. This would be a good one to practice, like pronunciation and whatnot with. So definitely keep a hold on to this one and give it a read in your personal time. We do not have the time to do a second read, unfortunately. So we're going to have to call it here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, and that'll end the recorded portion of the mic check. That does not mean we're done hanging out, though. So you can stick around for a little bit afterwards if you'd like. So anyway. Was that?
It's already been saved. I already saved the file.
Okay, good. Well, that was another script. Again, this one was a little bit on the drier side, but usually, I mean, it's always good to challenge yourself with different styles of voiceover and different kinds of scripts, because you never know when one aspect of voiceover or one thing that you learn on one script is going to help you with another. So, like I said, that's it for today. You all know where all the links are down there. If you can, please help us out on Patreon. It really helps keep not only the lights on and everything running, but also it's opened up some great opportunities for us to have some cool people on with us. And we'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody. Join us every Monday for free script practice. You can also find the Mic Check on Facebook and Twitter. If you liked what you saw, then subscribe for more.
Look at this!